The invincible fleet, the Kreth Dominion, was feared across the stars. For 2 centuries their fleet had swept across the galaxy, leaving only fire and silence behind. They had fought 164 battles, and they had won every single one. Not once had their banners fallen. Not once had their ships been defeated. They were called the Immortals, the fleet that could not be broken. On Kreth homeworld, the streets were filled with songs of victory. Children played games pretending to be Kreth captains, commanding endless ships. Soldiers marched with pride, their armor shining, their voices loud. The galaxy watched them with awe and terror. No one wanted to face the Dominion fleet. No one believed they could be stopped. In the council chambers, the Kreth delegates spoke with arrogance. "Our fleet is the blade of the galaxy," they said. "We crush enemies before they draw breath." Other delegates lowered their heads, afraid to argue, for to question the Dominion was to invite war. The fleet itself was vast, thousands of ships lined in perfect formation, cruisers with hulls like mountains, destroyers with claws of plasma, carriers filled with endless fighters. Their flagship, the Eternal Spear, was a monster of steel, larger than cities. Its commander, Lord Venar, was a legend among legends. Lord Venar had led the fleet through dozens of wars. His eyes were cold, his voice sharp. He had watched empires burn, he had watched enemies beg for mercy, and he had given none. To him, war was not chaos. It was order. "We strike, we win, we move on," he told his officers. "That is all there is." When news came of humanity's petition to the Galactic Council, laughter filled the Dominion halls. Earth had asked for respect, for recognition. The Kreth laughed at the idea. "Humans?" Venar sneered. "They are dust on the wind. They live on one small world. Their ships are scraps, their people fragile. What threat could they ever bring to us?" His officers laughed with him, yet whispers spread. A few council scholars spoke of humanity's strange history. They told of wars on Earth, wars where humans had faced impossible odds and still survived. They warned that mocking them could be dangerous, but no one listened. Not in the council, and certainly not in the Dominion fleet. Lord Venar stood before his armada. His voice carried on every comm channel. "We are the Immortals," he declared. "We have won 164 battles, and we will win our 165th. The humans will not stop us. Earth will be crushed, and the galaxy will see our strength once again." Cheers roared through the fleet. Officers beat their fists against armor. Fighters painted fresh banners on their hulls. The galaxy held its breath. Everyone knew where the Dominion fleet was going. Every broadcast announced it. The fleet of the Immortals was moving toward Terran space. Civilians whispered in markets, "The humans will be erased." Some shook their heads, or perhaps the humans will surprise us. But their voices were soft, drowned by the chorus of fear. The Kreth fleet launched. Engines burned across the void. Thousands of ships cutting through darkness. Their formation was flawless, their confidence unshakable. From the bridge of the Eternal Spear, Venar watched the stars slide past. His lips curved in a cruel smile. "Earth will fall in days," he said. Back on Earth, the humans were not blind. They saw the broadcasts, they saw the fleets moving. In secret command rooms, leaders gathered. On the screens above them, reports of the Kreth armada filled the air. A young officer asked, "Can we really stand against them?" "They have won every war they have fought," the Terran admiral answered with steady calm. "Every empire they faced underestimated us, and every empire that underestimates humanity ends in silence." His words hung heavy. On the border of Terran space, the stars were quiet, but the silence was not empty. Something vast waited in the dark, unseen, its hull hidden in shadow, its engines cold. For centuries it had rested, but now, as the Kreth fleet approached, the silence stirred. The Immortals believed this would be another easy victory, another mark of pride. They believed their name would echo louder than ever before. They did not know that history was waiting. They did not know that arrogance was their greatest weakness. The Kreth Dominion had won 164 battles, but as their fleet entered Terran space, The galaxy whispered a warning. This time will be different. Warnings ignored in the tall halls of the Galactic Council. Whispers of the Kreth fleet's next target echoed. Delegates gathered in uneasy silence. Some shook their heads in disbelief. The humans? One said, "Why waste the immortals on them?" Another laughed. "It will be their easiest victory yet." But not all were blind. In the quiet corners of the archives, scholars searched through human records. They read about Earth's endless wars, wars where humans fought against empires stronger, empires larger, and still survived. They saw patterns of stubbornness, of endurance, that no logic could explain. One scholar, an old insectoid named Karos, raised his thin voice before the chamber. "I have studied the Terrans," he said, "and they are not what you believe. They do not yield. They adapt. They fight with a will stronger than any weapon." The chamber filled with mocking laughter. A reptilian delegate hissed, "Do you think one small world can stand against the fleet that has won 164 battles?" A feathered noble spread his wings. "The humans will fall in hours. They should never have asked for respect." Caro struck the floor with his cane. "You are blind. Every empire that has underestimated them has suffered. You call them fragile, but their history shows otherwise. They will not fall as easily as you believe." But his words were drowned beneath the jeers. The council had already decided. The humans were weak. The Kreth were strong. The outcome was certain. Back in the Dominion fleet, Lord Vanar prepared his ships with full confidence. Scouts were sent ahead, sleek vessels sliding into Terran space. Their task was simple: map the borders, measure the defenses, return with laughter. At first, everything seemed calm. Empty space stretched before them, quiet and endless. But then, strange things began to happen. A scout near a barren moon sent back a broken message. Static filled the channel, but one word was clear: waiting. The ship was never heard from again. Another scout vanished near Saturn's rings, its last signal a burst of fear. "It sees us." Silence. When reports reached Lord Vanar, he dismissed them with a wave of his claw. "Malfunctions, accidents, space storms," he said. His officers nodded quickly, eager to echo his words, but deep in their eyes, unease flickered. On Earth, human leaders watched these reports with quiet satisfaction. In a command bunker beneath the surface, a young officer smiled as he read the transmissions. "They are searching, but they find only silence." The Terran admiral answered, "Good. Let the silence frighten them. Let them feel the weight of what waits in the dark." The Resolute, humanity's hidden warship, stirred from its long rest. Engines hummed low. Weapon systems blinked to life. In its hangars, crews worked silently, hands steady, eyes filled with resolve. The admiral of the warship stood tall, his voice echoing through the decks. "They come with arrogance. They believe they cannot fall. We will show them how wrong they are." Meanwhile, in alien markets and taverns, rumors spread. Some whispered of Terran weapons built in secret. Others claimed Earth had a ship that swallowed fleets whole. Smugglers sold fake maps of Terran traps. Merchants joked nervously, "Buy now, before the humans erase another empire." Laughter followed, but it was thin, hiding unease. Back in the council chambers, Karos tried once more to warn them. "The scouts do not return. The silence is not empty." But the council laughed again. "Humans hide because they are weak." The feathered noble said, "The Kreth will crush them, as they have crushed all others." But outside their marble halls, the galaxy itself began to whisper. Soldiers heard the tales of vanished scouts and spoke in hushed voices. Captains prayed before launching into Terran space, and families lit candles in fear. The Kreth Dominion fleet moved forward with banners high, 164 victories behind them, confidence unshaken. But shadows followed their every step. Silence pressed against their hulls. Reports vanished into static. And somewhere in the dark, the Resolute waited. The humans had been mocked, their warnings ignored, their patience tested. Now they were ready to answer, and when they did, the galaxy would never forget. Into the dark, the Kreth Dominion fleet entered the border of Terran space with pride. Thousands of ships stretched across the stars, banners glowing bright. Fighters soared ahead like hunting birds. Cruisers carried weapons meant to shatter. Worlds. On the bridge of the eternal spear, Lord Vanar stood tall, his voice calm and sharp. "The humans will not even fire a shot," he declared. "This will be the easiest victory of all." His officers cheered, their arrogance unbroken. First, it seemed he was right. The void ahead was empty. No Terran ships appeared. No defenses rose from hidden moons. The fleet advanced without resistance. "Pathetic," one officer laughed. "They flee before us." Another sneered. "Perhaps they have already surrendered." But the silence was strange. It was not the silence of weakness, but the silence of waiting. Ships scanned the space around them, returning nothing but static. Radar swept across dead rocks and silent planets. Yet no sign of human life appeared. The emptiness grew heavier. On one scout ship, an officer whispered, "It feels like we are being watched." His captain barked at him to be silent, but his claws trembled. They were hunters. Yet in this silence, they felt like prey. From the bridge of the eternal spear, Vanar dismissed the unease. "Press forward," he commanded. "Humans are too frightened to face us. We will find their world. We will burn it. And history will remember our 165th victory." The fleet roared forward, engines blazing. Back. On Earth, the Terran admiral watched their advance through hidden screens. The Kreth did not know every step was being tracked, every movement recorded. "They are deep enough now," the admiral said, his voice steady as stone. "They believe the silence is weakness. They do not yet know it is a trap." His officers nodded, silent but fierce. Far ahead of the Kreth fleet, the shadow of something vast began to stir, a shape larger than any ship ever built. Its hull swallowed light, its surface scarred but unbroken. The Resolute, humanity's silent predator, began to move. The first Kreth ship to detect it. Froze alarms blared, officers shouted, "Object detected, massive in size, larger than a city." The captain leaned forward, his eyes wide. "What kind of ship is that?" But before he could finish, the shadow slipped away, vanishing into the dark, leaving only fear behind. Rumors spread through the fleet. Crews whispered of a monster ship that stalked them. Some claimed it was a planet, others a station. None believed it was human. "They cannot build such a thing," Captain said. "It must be an illusion." But deep in their voices lay cracks of doubt. As the Kreth pressed deeper into Terran territory, the silence grew heavier. No human resistance, no fleets, no defenses, only the dark, and the constant feeling that something waited just beyond sight. On smaller ships, soldiers began to pray quietly, hands clutching old charms. On the bridge of the Resolute, the Terran admiral stood with his crew, his voice low but certain. "Let them come closer. Let their pride blind them further. They do not yet understand where they have stepped." The young pilot swallowed hard. "Admiral, are we truly ready for thousands of their ships?" The admiral turned his gaze on him, eyes like iron. "We do not need numbers. We need one ship with the will to fight, and we are that ship." Meanwhile, on the eternal spear, Lord Vanar sat on his throne of steel, his confidence unshaken. "The humans hide because they know they are weak," he told his officers. "But hiding will not save them. Nothing will save them." His voice carried certainty, but the silence around him was beginning to gnaw at even his iron pride. As the fleet approached the heart of Terran space, the first true signal came. A low hum on every channel, at first soft, then louder, until it drowned other comms. It was not a word, not a language, but a sound of awakening. The crews covered, their ears, their scales and feathers prickling in fear. And then across every Kreth ship, a single message appeared, written in simple Terran words. "You should not have come." The silence broke, but not with laughter. It broke with fear. The first strike, the Kreth Dominion fleet froze as the strange Terran message echoed across their comms. "You should not have come." No voice explained it, no ship revealed itself, only the weight of those words pressing into the minds of every soldier. On the bridge of the eternal spear, Lord Vanar's eyes narrowed. "Tricks," he growled. Human tricks do not be fooled. His officers tried to echo his confidence, but their hands shook as they clutched their consoles. Outside their windows, the void seemed darker than before. Then the shadow returned, larger than any ship in their fleet, its black hull scarred from ancient battles, yet alive with power. The resolute, humanity's hidden predator, emerged from the void. Lights burned across its surface, weapons glowing like the eyes of a beast. Panic rippled through the Kreth armada. "What is that?" captains cried. "No ship is that size." Some thought it was a station, others whispered it was a planet. But as the massive vessel turned its guns, there was no more doubt. It was a warship, and it was awake. Lord Vanar stood, his voice sharp. "All ships, fire at will." Thousands of cannons lit the void. Plasma beams and missiles streaked through the dark. They struck the Resolute. Explosions flared across its hull. For a moment, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. And then the Terran warship answered. A single rail slug roared across the stars. It ripped through a Kreth destroyer in an instant, splitting the ship apart like paper. The explosion lit the fleet in a burning wave. Screams filled the comm channels. One shot destroyed it. The Resolute fired again, and again rail cannons thundered like gods in rage. Missiles cut through shields as if they were glass. Entire formations shattered under its fury. In minutes, dozens of Kreth ships were gone. The fleet that had won 164 battles now bled in silence. On smaller vessels, soldiers broke into panic. "Retreat! Retreat!" they cried. But there was nowhere to run. The Resolute moved faster than its size should allow, slipping through the fleet like a predator among prey. Each strike was precise, merciless, unstoppable. On the bridge of the Eternal Spear, officers shouted, "Shields failing! Flanks destroyed!" Lord Vanar's tail lashed in rage. "Hold formation! It is only one ship!" But even his voice cracked. For every shot they fired, the Terran warship gave back tenfold. The young pilot on the Resolute watched the destruction with wide eyes. "Admiral, we are tearing them apart, but there are still so many." The Terran admiral's voice was cold, steady. "Numbers mean nothing if courage has already died, and theirs is dying now." Across the Kreth fleet, courage was truly dying. Captains who once boasted of immortality now begged for orders. Soldiers prayed to gods that no longer answered. The fleet that had believed itself invincible was learning fear. Another broadside volley lit the void. Dozens more Kreth ships fell, their wreckage spinning through the darkness. No song of victory, no proud cheer, only screams and silence. The Eternal Spear itself shook as a missile barrage slammed against its hull. Consoles sparked, alarms wailed. Officers fell to the floor. "Shields collapsing," one shouted. Vanar's eyes burned with rage and disbelief. "We have never been defeated. We cannot be defeated." But even as he shouted, he knew the truth. The Immortals were falling. In the council chambers far away, the first reports arrived. Delegates read the words in disbelief. "The fleet is under attack. Hundreds of ships destroyed. An unknown Terran warship. Unstoppable." The chamber, once filled with arrogance, fell silent. The scholar Karos whispered, his cracked voice shaking, "I warned you, I told you, you laughed, and now the Immortals bleed." But no one answered him, for the truth was too heavy. Back on the battlefield, the Kreth comm channels filled with broken voices. "We cannot hold. We cannot." Static cut them off. One by one, ships vanished, not even wreckage left behind. The Resolute's weapons burned hotter, hungrier. The young pilot on the Terran bridge whispered, "Admiral, will any survive this?" The Admiral's eyes stayed fixed on the stars. "If they do, it will only be to carry fear. Humanity does not seek prisoners tonight. Humanity seeks memory." The Kreth Dominion fleet, undefeated for 164 battles, was shattering before a single Terran warship in Ardatham. First strike was over, but the lesson had only just begun. The disappearance. The Kreth Dominion fleet was in chaos. Once a wall of power that no empire could break. Now it scattered like dust before a storm. Ships burned in silence. Wreckage spun through the void. And still the Terran warship moved. Calm, steady, relentless. From the bridge of the Eternal Spear, Lord Vanar gripped his command chair with trembling claws. His fleet had never lost. His fleet had never bled like this. He shouted over the screams of his officers, "Regroup! Reform formations!" But his words carried no strength. Already, fear had broken discipline. The Resolute advanced without mercy. Rail slugs roared again, punching through a line of cruisers. Missiles swept across the dark like falling stars, each explosion silenced. Another proud Kreth vessel. In minutes, dozens more were gone. Then came something stranger, something far worse than destruction. The Kreth officers realized not all wreckage remained. Ships that should have floated broken in the void were simply gone, vanished without a trace. An officer screamed, "Admiral, their weapons, they erase even the wreckage." Another shouted, "We can't track the debris, it disappears." Lord Vanar's eyes widened, his arrogance cracking into fear. "Impossible," he whispered. "No weapon can erase matter itself." Yet the proof was in the void. Ships that had existed only moments ago now left nothing. No hulls, no fragments, no burning pieces, only silence. Across the fleet, terror spread like wildfire. Crews shouted into comms, "We are not just being destroyed, we are being erased." Soldiers threw down weapons, captains abandoned positions. The pride of 164 victories turned to panic. On the bridge of the Resolute, the Terran admiral stood silent. His crew watched the disappearing wrecks without surprise. The young pilot whispered, "Admiral, they don't understand. They don't know why nothing remains." The admiral's voice was iron. "Let them wonder. Let their fear tell the story for us." The warship fired again, and another group of Kreth destroyers vanished. Their screams ended in static, their ships gone as though swallowed by the dark. Survivors shouted across comms, "We can't fight this. Nothing remains." Panic overtook them and the fleet broke. The once perfect formation of the Immortals dissolved. Ships fled in all directions, captains desperate to escape. But no matter how far they ran, the shadow of the Resolute followed. Sometimes it appeared before them, sometimes behind, always striking, always erasing. Lord Vanar roared, his voice breaking, "Cowards, return and fight." But even his own officers stared at him with hollow eyes. "It is not a fight," one muttered. "It is a nightmare." One last attempt was made. The Eternal Spear gathered what ships remained and launched a desperate charge. Plasma cannons fired, missiles streaked, the void lit with fury. For a brief moment it seemed the fleet fought as one, but the Terran warship did not flinch. Its shields burned, its hull groaned, but its weapons sang louder. A broadside of rail slugs split the charging line. Missiles carved through carriers. The charge ended in screams and silence. More ships vanished, leaving nothing behind. And then, as if satisfied, the Resolute stopped. It did not chase the last survivors, it did not fire again. It simply drifted back into shadow, its engines dimming, its weapons cooling. Within minutes it was gone, as though it had never been there. The survivors, a handful of broken ships, stumbled out of Terran space. Their voices cracked, their faces pale. They carried no wreckage, no black boxes, no evidence, only fear. When the Council demanded reports, the captains could only stammer, "The fleet is gone, not even wreckage remains, the humans erased us." In the Council chambers, silence fell. Delegates who once laughed now trembled. The words, "Not even wreckage," echoed again and again. The young delegate who had defended humanity stood, his voice steady. "You called them weak. You called them fragile. And now the galaxy knows the truth. You will never mock them again." Across alien worlds, whispers spread faster than light. "The Kreth fleet vanished," they said. "Not even wreckage was found." Children repeated it as a chant. Soldiers muttered it as a warning. The legend grew in every corner of the galaxy. On the bridge of the Resolute, the Admiral looked out at the stars, his crew silent. "They thought their victories made them immortal," he said. "But immortality ends when arrogance blinds you." The young pilot nodded slowly. "And now?" The admiral's voice was calm. Now the galaxy remembers. The Creth Dominion had won 164 battles, but in Terran space, their fleet disappeared. Not even wreckage was found. The broken council. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. The marble halls that once shook with laughter now trembled with fear. Delegates who had mocked humanity sat pale and still, their eyes fixed on the reports flashing across their screens. The Creth Dominion fleet has vanished. No wreckage was found. Not a single ship remains. The head speaker's golden staff slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. His voice cracked as he whispered, "One Terran warship. It erased them." His words spread like a chill through the chamber. No one dared to laugh this time. The reptilian warlord, once proud and loud, lowered his head. His tail no longer slammed with arrogance but dragged heavy against the floor. "The immortals are gone," he said. "They fought 164 battles and never lost, yet humans erased them in one night." His voice trembled with something the galaxy had never heard from him before. Fear, the feathered noble, who once mocked, Earth with every word folded his wings tight. "If one ship can do this," he muttered, "how many more do they have?" The thought spread quickly. Delegates exchanged nervous glances, their pride collapsing into panic. The young delegate who had warned them before rose, his eyes sharp, his voice steady. "You laughed at humanity. You called them weak, fragile, unworthy. And now your strongest fleet is gone. Humans asked only for respect. You gave them scorn. Now you see the price." His words cut through the chamber like a blade. Some delegates shouted in anger, desperate to cling to pride. "This cannot be. It must be a trick, an illusion." But their voices shook. Others whispered of surrender, of treaties, of begging Earth for peace. The chamber, once united in arrogance, was now broken in chaos. In the far corner, the old scholar Karos leaned. On his cane, his cracked voice rose above the noise. The warning was always there. The Terrans are not to be mocked. They do not boast. They do not beg. They wait. And when the time comes, they strike. They asked for equality, and you denied. Them now you will pay the price. His words were met not with laughter but with silence. Outside the council, fear swept across the galaxy. News spread faster than light. Entire worlds repeated the same phrase. Not even wreckage was found. Soldiers who once bragged about facing the immortals now muttered prayers. Families whispered at night, "Do not anger Earth, do not enter Terran space." Riots broke out on some planets. Citizens demanded answers from their leaders. "You told us humans were weak," they shouted. Statues of arrogant commanders were toppled. Councils faced angry crowds chanting the same words again and again. The fleet is gone. The humans are awake. Back on Earth, the Terran leaders gathered in secret chambers there, faces calm, their eyes steady. The admiral of the Resolute appeared before them, his uniform plain, his voice sharp. "The galaxy has seen our strength. They will not forget." A young officer asked, "Admiral, will they send more fleets?" The admiral's reply was quiet, but it carried iron. "If they do, they will vanish as well." On the bridge of the Resolute, the crew worked in silence. The young pilot finally broke it. "Admiral, do you think they will ever treat us as equals?" The admiral looked out at the endless stars. "They will not give us equality. We will take it, not with conquest, but with fear. Fear that will keep them from ever mocking humanity again." Back in the council chamber, the head speaker buried his face in his hands. "We are broken," he whispered. "If the humans can erase the immortals, what chance do we have?" The chamber had no answer. Their pride was shattered, their unity gone. The council itself was breaking. And still, the Resolute waited, silent and unseen. Its shadow stretched across the stars, reminding all who looked at the night sky of one truth. Humanity was awake. Humanity was strong. Humanity would never again be mocked. The galaxy remembers. The galaxy had seen wars before. Empires rise and fall. Fleets burned and rebuilt. Yet nothing compared to the silence that followed the Creth Dominion's defeat. For the first time in centuries, there was no wreckage to mourn. No bodies to bury. The immortals were simply gone. On Kreth homeworld, grief turned to rage. Families demanded answers. Soldiers who once sang victory songs sat in stunned silence. They had believed themselves untouchable. Their children had grown up chanting of 164 victories. But now that pride was broken, replaced by fear. Every whisper carried the same words. Not even wreckage was found. Across the stars, other empires trembled. In markets and taverns, citizens told stories of the Terran warship. Some swore it was forged from black holes. Others whispered it was powered by the rage of humanity itself. Myths grew overnight, stories told of humans who erased fleets with a single breath. Children whispered, "Do not enter Terran space." Their parents nodded, for the lesson was carved in fear. The Galactic Council tried to speak with authority again, but their words rang hollow. Delegates argued, but none dared to mock humanity anymore. Some demanded open peace with Earth, others spoke of preparing for war. Yet every time the debate grew heated, silence would fall. Silence heavy with the memory of the vanished fleet. The young delegate who had defended humanity stood once more, his voice carried across the chamber. The galaxy mocked them, laughed at them, called them weak, and yet they endured. They waited, and now the name of humanity is burned into every mind. You will not forget them. Not today, not ever. His words were met not with laughter, but with quiet nods. The old scholar Karos walked slowly through the archives. His claws traced over ancient records. His cracked voice whispered, "The Terran warship does not die, it waits." He closed the record, tears in his dim eyes. And now the galaxy remembers. On Earth, humanity did not boast. There were no grand parades, no victory songs. Instead, quiet pride filled their cities. Families looked to the stars and knew they were no longer mocked. Miners carved the name Resolute into stone. Colonists painted murals of the black warship on the walls of domes. Humanity had stepped from shadow to legend. On the bridge of the Resolute, the admiral stood alone, staring at the endless dark. His crew worked in silence. The young pilot approached him, his voice soft. "Admiral, they fear us now, but do they respect us?" The admiral's gaze did not waver. Fear is the beginning of respect. They will tell their children of us. They will speak our name with caution. That is enough. The admiral's words became truth, for across alien academies, teachers spoke of humanity with care. They were underestimated once. Never again, they said. In military schools, commanders told recruits, "If you face humans, remember the immortals. Remember what vanished." Even on distant worlds untouched by war, the legend of humanity grew. Generations would pass, empires would shift, but the memory of that day would remain. The day when the undefeated fleet of the Kreth Dominion entered Terran space and disappeared without a trace. No songs of victory followed, no stories of survival, only silence. In that silence, the galaxy found a lesson. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not fragile. Humanity was fire hidden in shadow, waiting, and when mocked, that fire would burn fleets to nothing. The story spread in a single line, repeated in markets, schools and homes. They won 164 battles. Then they entered Terran space and not even wreckage was found. The galaxy remembered, and it always would.